No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Now to a deadly shooting that's inflamed racial tensions in a Georgia community. Tonight, video has surfaced of an African-American man being chased down and killed. His family says he was just out jogging.
The guy keeps pulling in his arms. It's probably fake, scared.
Shots fired. Male down. Black male, maybe 20.
This comes at a time when the country is at boiling point over the treatment of young African Americans by white police.
We know that in the 21st century, 12 years of schooling is not enough, and that young people are getting crushed by the burden of student debt.
I believe that the whole United States is mourning with me. And if the death of my son can mean something to the other unfortunate people all over the world, then for him to have died a hero would mean more to me than for him just to have died.
Conversations for the Culture represents the things that we fail to discuss as a community. It's that, the family meeting that needs to happen. It's the bridging of the gaps, the sitting at the feet of our elders, the listening ears to a new generation. Raising Our Sons in America seeks to educate, empower, and encourage parents and educators and every stakeholder in an effort to build up our Black males. In any healthy relationship, communication is key. We must start the conversations.
All right, welcome to our very first Conversations for the Culture right here with our organization, Raising Our Sons in America. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll let the panelists introduce themselves, starting with, to the right of me, we have...
my fellow Americans, I go by 1K Few. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, a gospel rapper.
Good to have you.
It's good to be here.
And next we have, to the right of 1K.
This is Cree Osler, pastor at Light of the World, also a husband to Kim Osler and father to Power and Legend Osler.
Love it. Welcome, Pastor Zachary. And then last but certainly not least, on the very end.
All right. Hey, I'm Eric Levitt. I'm the sheriff of Rockdale County. I'm also married to Levette Levin, and I have 2 sons, and I am from Conyers, Georgia.
All right.
Oh, wait, that made me feel bad. I got to shout out my kids and my wife. Hey, baby, I love you.
What's her name?
Jasmine.
And your children?
Journey, Treasure. Yes. Mother, father, everyone.
And my name is Dawn Smith. Husband is Jeremiah Smith. Our sons, Jamari, Gian, and Grayson Smith. So we're going to just dig right into it. This conversation is really meant to be thought-provoking and solution-oriented, as well as transparent, just really as it relates to the things that are going on in our community. So our very first question is, how does the role of education play a part in the success of our communities? So anybody can really take this question. What do you guys think about that? How does the role of education play a part?
I think it plays a pretty important part. I don't know if traditional education or college education is what we're talking about. I think it's definitely important. However, given the financial aspects of college education, at least the connotation that it has recently with taking on debt, I think a lot of people feel like they may not be able to afford it, or if they don't know what they're going to do or how they would apply that degree, it can become a little off-putting for people. However, college education is a great introduction to the world in a greater scope. Coming out of high school, you really think you have an idea of what the world is, and you don't. And you really don't find out until your 30s, maybe your 40s. But college is a great way of broadening that scope of what the world really is. You don't really know what kind of sheltered environment you grow. And now I'm not even really speaking on the books education. I'm just talking about exposure education. You don't know what kind of world is really surrounding you until you broaden that scope. And so from that point of view, it's a great factor as far as growing and expanding the success like this.
Yeah, and that's kind of my pet peeve about just high schools and middle schools and high schools like that, because just like Zakri said, I mean, you don't really know nothing about that until you really get to college and deep into college. You know what I'm saying? Because in high school, like, I didn't know anything about credit, or I didn't know about debt, or I'm not saying anything because yeah, exactly. And you know, like just growing up in the African American community, I feel like we don't really have you know, that background to know that I'm a Muslim. You feel what I'm saying? And I feel like, yeah, so yeah, I just want to see schools in general just really tighten up on that and just get us ready. Cause I wasn't like I feel like I just got thrown out.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my only thing. But not like education, like that's one of the most important things. Like I feel like that you just need to have in general. Period. Like whether you like a lot of people say college ain't for me, but you don't know it's not for you if you don't try it out. You know what I'm saying? I went to college. I didn't graduate, but I went. You know, and I just knew what I wanted what God wanted my purpose to be. You feel what I'm saying? Earlier in life. But yeah, I would definitely say don't be so quick to say this is not for me and that is not for me. You got to try everything out.
Right.
You two brought up two very valid points. Really, I wasn't even thinking about higher education, but when you started talking about just being prepared in general in middle school and high school, you know, preparing you for education. I was talking to a high schooler earlier this week, and I was telling her she, you know, had sights on going to a HBCU, which when I was in school, even going to college, my college of choice, I was always, you know, told that about an HBCU, especially with my mom, both my parents attending HBCUs. I still really had my sights set on, well, I don't think that's going to prepare me for the real world. I need to go to, you know, a world. I've been around African American communities. My entire life has been surrounded by majority black people. So I said, I just need to go and broaden my horizons, you know, but even doing that helped me to understand that, number one, I did not have to do that. Right. And then number two, now I have all of this college debt, these loans. And with the particular high school I was talking to, I was telling her, go ahead and go to a community college, and then maybe your last year or two, transfer to HBCU or a college of your choice, because your diploma is gonna say the college that you graduated from. But not only was she so stuck in the stigma of, ooh, community college, but that's what our culture, we're so ingrained that, oh, community college is lower, but it's not. It's smart. It's the smart thing to do. But those are the conversations I definitely know we need to be having.
And sometimes, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just about to say, in smaller spaces, you know, it's more intimate. You know what I'm saying? And when you go to bigger schools, you're not really gonna get the type of attention you would get in community.
And that's what I was gonna say. It's for some people who are ready for it. It's, you know, maybe going to a bigger college is the right move, but it's a natural progression actually coming from a high school classroom to a smaller college classroom. I remember graduating from Southwest DeKalb and being dumped into Georgia State University and having to walk past shops and food courts and gyms, and it was such a distraction to me. You know, you're being dumped into the real world immediately. So,
On the law enforcement aspect of it, education is a extremely important role to the communities, because, in my opinion, the school prepares you, and it continues the teachings of the basic fundamentals that you need in order to survive out here in society. And I think sometimes that our African American culture, if you will, when they are not encouraged or supported by our own to go to school and finish at least high school, then that's when they're introduced to individuals like myself. And that's the last thing that we want is our people to be incarcerated with no education, but to be incarcerated, period. I'm like you. I was one of those ones that said college is not me. here I am, the highest level law enforcement in the county, and I don't have a college degree.
Wow.
But I grew up in a single household, which is no excuse to no one.
Right.
And look how I turned out.
Right.
And so, but I made sure that I was gonna focus on finish school. And I think that if we finish school, then it makes the world a better place, especially for our generation. And that's what we gotta get our younger generation and our race, if you will, to focus on. At least finish the basic fundamentals of school.
Yes.
Elementary, middle, and high school. And then let's talk about college.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
that's my take on it.
That is powerful segue into our next topic, gentlemen. So our next topic, are we doing our part as a community to prepare the next generation? If we are, in what areas are we preparing the next generation? And then if we are not, what can we do to better improve that preparation for the next generation? And we've already started speaking on it.
I think you are, Dawn. You are in twofold way. One, you are an educator. You're in the public system, school system. You're teaching. You're giving us the resources and the tools that we need to survive. Secondly, you created a nonprofit organization to continue supporting our young Americans. And so, not everybody is doing enough. For those that don't have that passion that you have, that's a good question. What are we doing? Even me in law enforcement, I just can't sit behind the badge and just look to, if you will, ruin someone's life. I have to find a way to help them as well.
Absolutely.
And so I constantly talk to young men and young women and mentor them and let them know, look, it goes back to the school. You know, I don't have a college degree, but look how I turned out. If you just set your goals and you set your mind as to what you want to do, you can accomplish anything. And I think that we got to help each other out, and we don't do that enough. So in my opinion, I don't think we all are not doing enough. Some of us are, some of us aren't.
I definitely, to piggyback off of what the sheriff was saying, I definitely understand not helping each other out. I think we can really get caught up in our own worlds with our own goals, our own agendas, and time can go by so fast to where I intended to do something, but the intention did not meet the action. And you know, to answer the question as far as if not or if so, regardless of if not, if so, we better. Because the generations can seem to be growing apart, not just in ideologies, but in technology, in applications, in lifestyles. Even my kids know tablets better than me. They're 5 and 6, you know, and so the technological advances are going one way, while certain mindsets that I have is another way, and so the worlds are almost completely different, even within households. And so if you don't try to bridge that gap, it's going to be hard to make that connection to even prepare them, because they're going to see the world in a totally different way. So.
Exactly. And I feel like that's where purpose comes in too. I feel like everyone just needs to follow their purpose. Just for example, like it's a lot of young, kids and like they want to be like rappers and look up to rappers and stuff like that. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to be a gospel rapper. You feel what I'm saying? Because I wanted to kind of throw a wrench in and be like, y'all looking up to this. But nah, it's like exactly. You feel what I'm saying? And I feel like not only just music, but it's a lot of dope people in the medical field. It's a lot of people, you know, in the political field and everything. You know, and I just feel like if everybody just followed their lane and followed their purpose, the gap will bridge automatically. Because you know it's like with the body of Christ, I ain't trying to preach, but with the body of Christ, you know, it's different ligaments. It's different. Like you got the hands, the feet. Like if we all was an arm, we'll, you know what I'm saying, be walking one-sided. So I feel like if everybody just followed their purpose, it'll come together automatically.
You hit the nail on the head, because so many times, especially with social media, people think, oh, if they have this large presence, or they're very vocal on social media, then they must have a large platform, or they must be really aware. Yes, thank the Lord for editing. Yes. Wait just 1 minute as soon as I'm finished, okay? That's a big boy. Where was that? So some people think that just because they have maybe a large following or because their platform is loud and huge and always, I call it kind of propaganda. Some of it is propaganda, some of it's hype, but you don't have to necessarily be that in order to do something in the community, in order to help prepare the next generation. Like you guys said, you work in your lane. So if your lane is in ministry and you're helping work with youth or the next generation, then you are preparing the next generation. If you're working in law enforcement and you're working with programs, I know specifically Rockdale, a lot of police departments have a specific gang awareness department and things like that to help with the young people. If you are an artist and you're working in one of our conferences, it's called the 7 Mountains, Conquering the Mountains, and you think about the mountain of religion, for lack of a better term, the mountain of arts, the mountain of education, the mountain of media and things like that. If you just work in that particular mountain and you conquer it and you teach your children to conquer it and you have those conversations about conquering the mountains, then we indeed can help prepare the next generation, line upon line, precept upon precept.
I'll just also add, and this is not to pat myself on the back or anything, but actually just to encourage, if there's any pastors or spiritual religious leaders out there, make sure that you're feeding the whole man.
Yes.
For a minute, I was working with our 18 to 21-year-olds, and I had the opportunity to teach them. I thought maybe, they don't, this is just me in my head thinking, they don't know their Bible, this and that, and this, let's give them a bunch of Bible lessons. And I was like, well, just pause. Where were you when you were 18? What were you teaching? And some of the things that Glenn Isaac were talking about as far as being financially illiterate and not having any exposure, I was like, let's take it to those grounds. Let's feed the whole person. Give them the spirit, give them the financial, give them the personal, give them the interpersonal, and feed the whole person. And then they can be ready. You won't have these people that know the Bible inside and out and don't know how to bounce a checkbook.
That's it.
They're ready for life.
That's it. That's it. So now this question, and I'm going to ask you, Sheriff Levitt. Our next question, we've been talking about preparing the next generation. So what do you think, and just even in your line of work, what do you see are some areas for growth in preparing our boys to be able to function in society? And by function, I mean just, I don't want to say know their place, but understand how they're viewed in the world, and then also how to overcome stereotypes and how to just really how to function in society. What are some areas for growth that we can do as a community?
I'm gonna tell. I hope I answer this question right as to what I view, as what I see. I think that if you remember, Dawn, growing up, one of the things that we grew up on from our parents and we learned from our parents is it gears around one particular word. Do you know what that word is?
What is it?
Respect.
Wow.
Right. We have lost a sense of respect. Think about it. We don't even respect our parents at home. There's a lot of talking back. There's a lot of things that the younger generation is doing at home that we wouldn't even dream of even doing. And I think that if we just focus on that one word of respect, then we wouldn't have to worry about the law enforcement involved shootings. We would not worry about a whole lot of other things that we worry about. I have 2 sons, 17, will soon to be 18 years old, and 13. There is no one can tell me that I don't worry about my children, especially my 17-year-old who now has his own car and he drives. Just because I'm in law enforcement doesn't mean I don't worry about him being stopped by the wrong officer.
Wow.
I would never stand before a camera in front of anyone to say that there's not any bad law enforcement officers that work in some of our agencies. There's some bad people working McDonald's. There's some bad people working Target and everywhere else. But it's our job to weed them out. But now what I do teach my child is, no matter what, you always respect adults. Do you remember when growing up, our parents always say, even if the adult is wrong, you respect him.
Yep.
Yeah, and so look how you turn out.
Yeah.
even you, even me. Look how we turned out. We disagree with adults all the time, but because we were taught our morals and we was taught respect and how to respect and how to address and our manners, we can deal with all the other consequences later.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's, I'm gonna leave it with that. That's the one thing that has stuck with me every time I turn the TV on and I see some young black male or female that's had a bad encounter with law enforcement. I just wonder, how did they address that officer?
Yeah.
Even if he's wrong.
Yeah.
So, respect.
And on top of respect for others, also self-respect. I think we're really good on self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know myself,
Exactly.
but we have some things you ought not do for you.
Right.
Exactly.
And if you have a level of self-respect, there's some things you won't allow yourself to do because I'm never going to challenge Officer Levitt in a certain way. It's going to put me in a bad light. If it's going to put me in a disadvantage. So we have to make sure we have not just respect for respect for officers, but have respect for yourself. That's a great guider.
Yeah.
And that's the thing for you.
The generation coming up behind us,
Right.
and that might not be your kids, like blood, but we still tied as family. So I mean, that goes back to bridging the gap again. You know what I'm saying? If we start with ourselves,
Yes.
it'll spread. It'll be contagious.
Right.
And as parents, this really hit close to home because to me that respect, you really nailed it. That respect is so key. I remember the first time I was at the movies. I may have been just graduated from college, and I saw an officer, with teens and trying to kind of just really gently guiding them, telling them, hey, this is where you need to be. And the way they were talking back, I was so just in awe. Like, what in the world is going on? They have no fear.
Right.
And so then that brings me back as a parent. My children are very vocal, and I do teach them to be vocal and to express yourself. But one of my sons, he expresses himself a little bit more than we'd like him to. But at home, it's my responsibility, it's my husband's responsibility, both of us, to teach him, this is what you're supposed to say. This is how you're supposed to react. This is what you're supposed to do when you're in the presence. Not only, somebody said, not just with an officer, but just awareness about yourself, who you are. This is not how you behave or react to situations. So it's really a responsibility of us at home as well. So the next question, and this is for you. I mean, everybody can really kind of, jump in on it, but this is for you, Isaac. What do you think is the responsibility of those who are in arts and entertainment to bring awareness to cultural inequities or inequalities within our society? So what do you think, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, but what do you think should be the responsibility of those in your field?
Just leadership, and just not following, but just really walking in your purpose, like I said earlier, and just literally being a leader. Because I ain't gonna lie, like even this year, like the whole 2020, like I feel like God really was showing me who I was. Like for the longest, I would always say, nah, I ain't just no gospel, like I ain't no gospel rapper, like you just call me a rapper, like I'm still a Christian, but I'm saying you can call me a rapper, but it's like now it's like nah, like God was like, no, like you dope enough, you got enough sauce to still claim me and represent me. You know what I'm saying? You let them come to you. I feel like a lot of people would be like, nah, we gotta go to them type thing, and that's true in certain cases. You gotta reach out sometime, but never ever step out of your box. You feel what I'm saying? You always gotta stay in what God gave you. And if you don't, boy, He will show you so quick. So that's what I learned even recently. So I've just been learning how to be a better leader in entertainment as well as at house. You know what I'm saying? So I would definitely say leadership.
And so often, people that are in that field, you're under a microscope. So any reactions, especially on social media, any reactions that you might have to something going on in society, you are looked at. People are looking at your reaction. What are you saying? What is he posting? What are you doing? But it's your responsibility to keep keep that tunnel vision
I was just about to say
in
that.
purpose. You can't get distracted. Case in point, with what went on at the Capitol a couple weeks ago. You know, so many people were posting about it and things of that nature, which was fine. But honestly, you know, I think you think about what happened in Tulsa back in 1921 with the massacre, the Black Wall Street massacre. You had Greenwood, the city of Greenwood, this city that was so wealthy and affluent of black people. And so even from then on, we have been massacred. We have been unjustly dealt with. So what went on at the Capitol, I guess for me, from my standpoint as a race, we're just like, there's no shock. You know, during Greenwood, you had county officials supplying the people with guns and with the ammunition. So this is nothing new to see that, you know, people wishing to do the Capitol harm were welcomed with open arms, if you will. So sometimes some of the backlash that we get for not posting or for not joining the bandwagon on social media is like, well, you don't care about it. And it's not that, it's I'm gonna work in my lane and I'm gonna work according to purpose. Okay.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely, please, yes.
I also think it's very important that artists and creators make sure that they're empowering their audiences and not feeding the audience maybe partisan propaganda piece or even playing victim.
Yeah.
One of my favorite artists is, I'm a pastor, but I gotta confess, one of my favorite artists is Jay-Z. I love Jay-Z. But I like the evolution of Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z starts rapping early on about crack and cocaine and shooting, and now you see him as a grown man, he's talking about, no, forget all that, man. What are you doing for your community? What business are you building? How you growing your work? One of my favorite dance choreographers, and I'm not even being biased, this person is just great, that's my wife. Kim Osler does a phenomenal job.
Yes, she does.
She will put together pieces that some are educational. Some may take you into depression. She may take you all the way back to slavery. But she will do pieces that bring forth an empowerment. She's not trying to necessarily entertain necessarily. But neither is she trying to necessarily agitate. But she wants to edify. She wants to encourage you. And that may lead you to, you know, maybe being an agitator, perhaps, but that's not necessarily our goal. And so as a creator, as an artist, making sure that, you know, you realize that as an artist, as a creator, you have the control. You're at the helm. And you can't just say what you feel, because entertainment is such a influencer. We can think that we're doing it and it has little to no impact. But whether you're a sheriff or you're an entertainer or you're a pastor, your words matter. When you have an audience, your words matter. And making sure that you're driving home whatever message you're doing with intention. So, yeah.
I mean, he stole exactly what I was going to say, but no, you good. You put it in an adequate way. I was going to say lyrics.
Right.
Yeah.
Leadership is good. That's because, believe it or not, there is so many there's two professions that our black males look up to. What do you think they are?
Athletes and rappers.
There you go. And lyrics matters.
Right.
Yes.
You know, oftentimes some of the negative lyrics is degraded our females and degraded, you know, our society.
Ourselves.
So in ourselves, you're right. So anyway, you said it, leadership and then the lyrics.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So now this question comes to you, Sheriff Levitt. Again, you know, in light of recent events well, not even recent, but just in light of the cultural climate right now, the whole climate of our society as far as a relationship between the African American community and law enforcement, it seems as though more people are speaking out. And I look at it like this:
community policing. And more agencies got to get more involved in community policing and creating ways to build that trust and continue, and if they're not, starting to be more transparent to their community. So when I started seeing that, and I was seeing that it was not really happening in our county, I wanted to make sure that I hosted town hall meetings. I wanted to make sure that I hosted block parties on our dime. If the community wanted to contribute, we would allow it. But we get out in their communities and not wait on them to come to us. We went to them, and this gave them an opportunity to tell us what is our failures, what are we doing good, what are we not doing good, what can we do to continue this trust or build trust, and so forth and so on. We had to tell our deputies that don't just ride down the road and see that mother or father or grandmother or grandfather working in their yard. Get out and go and introduce yourself and just say to them, how is everything in the neighborhood? Is there any concerns that you have? I'm deputy such and such, I'm officer such and such, I'm working this beat, you know, and just be friendly with them. So I think that we as top leaders, we have to adapt, and we also got to be sensitive to the needs of the community. In order to do that, some of us, we have to provide sensitivity to our agency, because again, some of the agencies don't look like the community. If your agency don't look like the community, they perhaps are not going to understand that community. So what do you got to do? You got to give them sensitivity training, and you got to give them other cultural training so they can understand their community. That's how you adapt, and I think that's something that we're doing in Rockdale, and that's something we're going to continue to do and build on.
That's good. Very well said. Very well said. Thank you for that. So listen, so we have one more question, and then that'll be all for this particular one. But
I
we are
had a
definitely
question
gonna.
I wanted to answer. So
Oh, well,
go ahead.
come on.
Okay.
So okay. So or you could just all of a sudden just start talking about it.
Yeah, just throw it in.
Ask yourself a question. So what about, there's one area, and that is financial awareness, that I wanted us to talk about, and wealth building within our community. So what are your thoughts to how we are bringing financial awareness and just knowledge about building wealth? How are we doing that in our community? And you can even talk about how are you doing that in your own homes? What do you think we should be doing to build financial awareness or financial literacy in our community, especially with the young people?
I was just about to say, just an example of what I've started doing recently, like releasing songs under my children's name, to teach them, you know, you got to start now. Because I feel like if somebody told me that, nah, you need to start having an investing mindset, like when you're young, oh my goodness, boy, I would Bill Gates or somebody. Right. But you know, everything in God's plan. But I just feel like just starting young and not being afraid to tell your kids what it really is.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And just be like, nah, baby, like, it's okay to have the new shoes, it's okay to have this and that, but just know you got to invest in something, and you know what I'm saying, a couple things as well, so you can keep that growth. Because, boy, money ain't going to keep coming if you keep spending. You know what I'm saying? If it's not coming in, so.
It's not.
I would say one thing that I would teach our young adults, I would tell them 2 legs, but actually I'm starting to see there's 3. And that is number 1, income, number 2, credit, number 3, information. And as far as income, I would encourage everyone and anyone to have multiple streams of income. Do not rely on one way of making money. I don't care how much you make in that particular field. Millionaires don't become millionaires through one stream. They become millionaires through multiple streams. So, you know, try to have as many streams of income as you can. Try to balance your time. If you have a job or a gig that requires too much of your time and it's not paying you enough, then perhaps you need to, I'm not telling you to do this, but consider how to balance that out. Because if you're too dependent on that and the time payoff is not, it's not a payoff as far as the financial piece, you need to consider that. Also, you need to watch your credit. There are plenty of credit apps out. You should be on your credit app at least once a day. You know, people stay on Facebook and Insta, but they don't know what Credit Karma is. They don't know what they have. They don't know what their credit score is. You need to understand your credit score, because it doesn't matter how much money you make. If your credit is crap, you're gonna put yourself in a bad spot. And then number 3, information. You got to stay informed. And if you're not informed, that's okay. There's all kinds of levels to financial information, but you need to move on the level of what you're informed by. Just recently, there was We had a situation where the Robinhood app put a freeze on investings because there was a short going against a stock, and then there was a squeeze against the short, and then the public tried to get in on the squeeze against the short, and people got upset about it. But what people don't understand is, if you don't know what you're doing, Robinhood might actually be protecting you. So you need to have some kind of information and education as far as what you're doing. If you can try to grow in all three of those things, you should be okay, especially in the first. Usually the first one, as far as income, can help goad and guide the second one. If you can get your income together, you can get that credit together. And the more money you have, I promise you, the more you will be informed about your own money. So those that would be what I would encourage people to do as far as the financial.
Education. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say, I think sometimes some of us that have knowledgeable information like what you just presented, it's not shared enough. And that's why we have the short end of the stick sometimes in our race. So we got to be more, again, helpful to each other and educate each other on our finances. Again, not trying to be biased as well, but at the sheriff's office, I struggle to get to my level. But one thing I have not done is forgotten where I came from.
There you go.
And in order to get people to the level to where we are, we got to figure out how to get them there. And one of the things I'm looking into is finding financial educational pieces that we can bring in the agency to teach people how to handle their finances and or how to go after finances, like you just said. And Don, if you remember, and you remember this as well, some of the churches do it, and one of the blessings when Light of the World done it, they I can't recall if they charged, if it was a fee for it, but Dave Ramsey, when they done that financial piece, sometimes you got to eat that price tag up and assume that cost to offer it free to your members or offer it free to your organization, just to teach the people that's under you how to become financially stable. So anyway, just the educational piece of it to me, and sharing the information.
Absolutely. It's a bad pastor who will stand in front of people and demand tithes and offerings, but will not teach those people how to earn money. So you have to make sure that you're doing that.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, you guys have offered a wealth of information, and you have definitely opened up the conversation. And so what I'll give you now is any last or closing thoughts that you have. You are welcome to have at it. So we'll start with you, 1K. If there's anything that you want our culture, we're talking about conversations for the culture. Any message that you have for our culture, I want you to look straight into that lens, and this is your chance.
Do not be afraid to create the culture. Don't be so quick to follow the culture, but create one. And just walk in your purpose. Like, don't try to, you can go outside and reach others, but when you go outside to reach others, don't ever lose your character. Like, don't ever lose who God called you to be. Because you never know what you had until it's gone. And sometimes when it's gone, it get too late. But, you just gotta have that tunnel vision and stay focused. That's all I got.
I have two thoughts. I'm going to go with the first. I'm just going to reiterate something. And that's, if you can leave today, make sure you focus on those three legs that I mentioned before. Because so often where you are financially will help goad a lot of your decisions. So focus on that income, information, and credit. A lot of people will find themselves in bad spots with Sheriff Levitt only because they're living in poverty. And you can help yourself out of a bad situation if you can realize a little bit of prosperity. You can have actually a greater respect for yourself if you can earn a little something. So I would just encourage everyone, not from a hog or to pimp you, but for your own education, for your own well-being. Grow in the knowledge of credit, grow in the knowledge of income, grow in the knowledge of financial information.
What they said. And to add, there's a model that I'm using this week and next week particularly for my agency. and it's the same one that I would give to you all, is build a team so strong that no one can point out the leader. You don't have to be a leader, you just got to be strong.
Right.
And so that's what I would leave with you. And let's get back to the one fundamental basic I ask all of you to do. Let's respect one another.
Absolutely.
And let's be respectful.
Right.
Let's get back to respect. And Don, I want to say thank you
Absolutely.
to you and Jeremiah for creating this nonprofit organization, because it will be an advancement and a contributing factor to the lives of many young Americans. So thank you for that.
Thank you all for being a part, and to God be the glory for everything that he has done and for what he is doing. Again, it has certainly been an honor to have you all on this panel, and you represent several areas, walks of my life personally, so God bless you for that. If we could leave you with one thing, here at Raising Our Sons in America Incorporated, we seek to encourage, educate, and empower parents and teachers of African American males with resources, because we know that without knowledge, we are nothing. And the Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So in all of your getting, get understanding and seek wisdom. That is all for now with Conversations for the Culture. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Thank you.